Welcome to Grant's Rock Warehouse, and today we welcome Tim Durling from Tim's Vinyl Confessions and the author of Unspooled, an adventure in 8 tracks. Tim is stopping by today for a general discussion and an overview of the Canadian rock band Honeymoon Suite. Heck, Tim being such a big 8-track guy, I wouldn't be surprised if he pulls out some Honeymoon Suite 8 tracks while he's here. I'm just saying. Well, anyway, let's get to Tim and to Honeymoon Suite after this.
Honeymoon Suite, I like to keep it a 5-man band, and I like to have a keyboard player as a prominent person in the band because it adds so much, to the songs.
I definitely won't sing without a keyboard player.
Hey, when we first started, when I first joined Honeymoon Suite, it was like totally different guys. Johnny and I first got together, and I kind of liked it because I just came onto this punk thing that I was doing, so I was just guitar, bass, and drums, and Johnny goes, I'm not playing without keyboard. So we did a few months doing those old Deep Purple stuff, and then we got to get a keyboard player, and I was happy. Well, they know more chords.
Yeah, right.
On guitar,
yeah, right.
G and A and D, right, and some leads and stuff. And then
I want you to know Ray's been watching this, and he just left the band.
Yeah.
Tim Durling, how are you today?
I'm doing very well, Grant. Thank you for inviting me to come on this and talk about.
Yeah, I can't remember. Did I bring up the topic Honeymoon Suite, or did we both just kind of stumble onto? I don't know how we did it, but it just kind of came to fruition.
I think I might have brought them up on one of our April wine panels, maybe. But whatever happened, you said, "Hey, we should do. You want to do an episode on that band?" I'm like, "Absolutely, yeah." I never get to talk about Honeymoon Suite.
Now, I know you were prepping, and before you had sent like a picture. Did you have like a stack of CDs or something?
I do.
It was a big stack. I was impressed.
There's not a lot of different albums, but I got some cool stuff here.
Excellent. Well, you always bring it.
Some chart stats.
Hey, look, we got Star already. Hey, Star, how are you? Thanks for coming on. Hey, look at this. Todd Evans.
It's Todd.
Hey, Todd, how are you? Yeah, I figured we'd do this one live. Why not? I don't know.
Yeah.
Heck, I felt like going live. All right, let me... You guys have now picked 2 of the absolutely favorite obscure-ish bands. These guys in Big Country. Well, where are you texting from? Champion Dipple? I can't even pronounce that.
Pipple D?
Where are you from that they're so obscure? You can just leave a comment. I'm just curious.
Well, I'm going to guess not Scotland if it's Big Country.
Well, I always wonder before we started this, how big were, because you're up in Canada, how big were Honeymoon Suite? Well, probably way bigger in the 80s up in Canada than they ever were down here in the States. I mean, the Big Prize was a pretty big record.
The first couple of Honeymoon Suite albums are both triple platinum up here.
Okay,
that means 300,000 copies. It's the record sales are a tenth of what they would be in the States. So yeah, first couple of albums each went triple platinum. Third album went double platinum, and then their first the singles compilation went platinum. They had a lot of radio hits up here. Big video band on Much Music, our MTV, and also other music video outlets. I mean, yeah, they were a pretty big band. I mean, they were a headlining act in Canada, as of the second album. And they did make some inroads in the States, but I just think they had the potential to do so much more. They had the potential to be a big band because they could rock, but they wrote great melodic songs that could sound just as good on top 40 radio as they did on an album rock station. They had the visual thing going for them. They were a great live band. They wrote their own songs. I mean, for the most part, they wrote their own songs. So yeah, it's kind of a shame they didn't do more business, but sometimes it's hard for Canadian bands. The list of Canadian bands that are kind of only known in Canada is a huge list, and maybe pockets in other parts of the world. And actually, by that token, Honeymoon Suite actually are a fairly well-known band. in other parts of the world. They did score some. They charted some songs in the States. They had one top 40 hit. I don't think any of their albums went gold, although I would guess that at least the first couple must be in the 350,000 range. Like they had some big opening slots on some big tours. So yeah, just something just didn't quite take it the extra way.
Right. Well, I remember my first encounter with the band had to be when the first album came out, because obviously it got some yeah, there you go. In fact, if we're going to start talking about that, I might as well put the graphic up. So the first Honeymoon Suite album from 1984, right? So I had the song New Girl Now, which was, that song really made an impression. I mean, me and my buddies loved that when that came out. We always thought the Honeymoon Suite was like a British band, because if you listen to that first album, there's a lot of kind of new wave nuances, but then again, it bridges over, to basic, I don't want to say classic rock, but just regular, almost stadium rock. I want to use that term, but
well, I think that's what they were aiming for ultimately, was stadium rock. Yeah, the first album does have some new wave touches, songs like It's Your Heart, Wave Babies is certainly, it's kind of new wave. Yeah, they did. The couple of the members of the band kind of had new wave backgrounds, but yeah, it's funny. I've never really read much about the individual influences on a lot of the guys in the band and how they came together. You mentioned New Girl Now. It's one of the collectibles I have here.
Yeah, but that song sounds very British to me. Maybe they were trying to do that. The vocals.
The vocal is a little bit. Yeah, Johnny D's vocal is a little bit. He's got kind of an affectation on his voice because he doesn't normally sing like that. That's not their. The funny thing is about New Girl Now, that is their best known song. That's their signature song. That's the last song.
It's a great song,
but it's not their highest charting song, at least not in the States. I'll show you what I'm referencing here. I've got this Joel Whitburn Billboard Rock Tracks 1981 to 2008. And so Honeymoon Suite charted 6 songs on the mainstream rock chart. And what I like about this book is that it shows where it charted on mainstream rock, but if it hit the Hot 100, it also shows where it hit. So New Girl Now hit number 7 on the mainstream rock chart, hit number 57 on the Billboard Hot 100. But I think its popularity is way beyond that. I mean, lots of people know that song, and not just here in Canada. Yeah, in Canada here, it's a radio staple, absolutely. What I've got here is a promotional 12-inch single put out by WEA of Canada, which is Warner Electra Atlantic. And this has New Girl Now on side 1. This actually came out, I think, probably before the first album actually came out. Let me say actually a few more times. And the B side of this, that says open-ended interview. And I got this at a record store. They were just clearing out a bunch of stuff. This would have been sent to radio stations and probably record stores too, but this would have had a cue sheet with it to make the DJ sound like they were interviewing the band. So tell us about how you formed. And then, the guys would fill in the rest. But I thought that was kind of a cool, I think I paid $1 for this.
Oh, well, Tim, that's definitely worth $1.
Yeah. And this is an iconic album cover up here. Everybody, you mentioned the Bed of Nails album cover. It's pretty cool. I mean, it's almost a Hypnosis cover if you think about it. It's so great. It is. And it's not. Who designed this? Yeah, they were Warner Brothers. I mean, they had they had big label. Who designed this? Okay, design and concept: Steve Gerdes and Dean Motter. Now, Dean Motter's a name I've seen on album covers. For some reason, one that comes to mind is Triumph's Thunder 7, which is like the takeoff of the Da Vinci thing. But yeah, this is from Niagara Falls, which is where the band is from, which is pretty much why they're named Honeymoon Suite. It's like the honeymoon capital of the world, right there from the Canadian side. And this album did very, very well. It had 4 hit singles in Canada. So New Girl Now, Burning in Love, Stay in the Light, and Wave Babies. Those all got substantial amounts of airplay. Now, of those songs, the only other one that hit in the States was Burning in Love. It got to 47. Just when I say these song titles, I get the songs in my head, and it just boggles the mind why they didn't click with U.S. audiences, because there really wasn't anything like take an artist like Kim Mitchell, Max Webster, who we're both fans of. There's a quirkiness to that material, and there's a quirkiness to some of these other artists that kind of never quite made it south of the border. With Honeymoon Suite, there was really nothing quirky about them. There's no reason that anybody that was into Bryan Adams or Loverboy or not Canadian but Night Ranger. I mean, these guys had what it took to have like albums that spun off 3-4 hit singles and do it for quite a few years, and they did all right. Don't get me wrong. This isn't the case. This isn't the case of a band that just toiled in obscurity, but yeah, they should have done better. This is a CD version too.
Yeah, you would have thought that they would have. I was going to say, I remember when this came out back in the day, though. I think maybe with the American audiences, I don't know. I could be wrong. What do I know? But there really wasn't another song on the record like New Girl Now, and I think they probably wanted more of that. But I don't know. But it's such a standout track compared to the other tracks in the album. I'm not taking anything away from the record. It's a good, solid record. But, New Girl Now really stands out.
It's probably the hardest rocking thing.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of keyboards in this band, a lot of synthesizers. Doesn't bother me, but
doesn't bother me.
New Girl Now is pretty guitar driven. And that's another thing. I mean, the guitar player, Jerry Green, to me, he was like the Eddie Van Halen of Canada. I mean, he was an amazing song. Well, still is. They're still around.
Right.
But amazing songwriter, but he had chops for days. And but knew when to play and when not to play, which again, I think that's an Eddie Van Halen thing. Obviously, that's a known influence. I mean, he's made no secret of that. And there's a bigger Van Halen connection as we go along the albums here. But yeah, the first album, they opened for Bryan Adams. They opened for Billy Idol. They opened for, I believe, April Wine, which was probably one of April Wine's last. They probably opened for April Wine on their farewell tour across Canada in '84, and they opened for Jethro Tull of which kind of
course
is off to one side from the other bands, but they play into this band as well. So yeah,
well, Ian Anderson's playing flute on
the second album. Yeah.
So he does make an appearance.
Yeah.
Overall, though, I'm just curious what your personal rating is on this record.
What are we rating out of 5?
Let's do it we can do it out of 10. That's fine. Everybody,
that'll
work.
I think it's good when bands get better as they go, but for a young band, I think this is a darn good start. I think they kind of literally hit the ground running. I think I'm going to give the first album 8.5 out of 10, 8.5 out of 10. I'd
probably give it a 7 just because nothing really matches up to New Girl Now, but that's okay. It's
I think
a good solid record.
I think the first side is cut for cut a little bit better than the second side. Maybe it starts to run out of steam a little bit, but not that much. So yeah. Also, this is a band that I've been into since they came out. This isn't a band that I discovered years after the fact. So I've literally grown up.
You're hardcore, Tim.
I remember
You're
each
hardcore.
of these singles as they came out. And I've only been 10 when this came out, but I still remember seeing the video for New Girl Now, and it was great. The car and the bed of nails and the whole thing. It's just it's classic.
So I'm just curious, based on your fandom and everything, would you recommend this album? Because if someone's watching this and they want to get turned on to this, would you recommend the first album as a good starting point?
I don't think so.
Something we can answer later.
I don't think I would.
I don't think I would either, because
it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world to start off with, because it's not like it's uncharacteristic. I just think that some of what follows are stronger albums.
This is one of those bands that improve with time.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we'll eventually get there. All right. Well, so anyway, this is a solid record. I mean, you could look at it, you could play it, you could buy it, you could start here and you'd be all right. But I think I'd start with something later, All right. Let's look at the big prize. This is the next record on Warner Brothers from, was it 1983? I can't read that.
The
Or
record
85.
says 1985 on it.
Yeah, it's 85.
But I don't remember this coming out until about March of '86. So I don't know if it's one of those cases where they had the jackets printed up.
Well,
But I mean, it says 85 on it, so we kind of have to go with that. But as someone that was like kind of waiting for another album or waiting for new songs, man, I think maybe they had the jackets printed up and there might have been like a slight delay. This is Hugh Syme artwork, and a word about this. I mention this every time I show this album cover. I just think it's a cool statistic. So Hugh Syme and a photographer up here by the name of Demo Safari worked on this. But so the groom in this picture, this gentleman right here,
yeah,
is the same Toronto stockbroker that is on the cover of Rush's Power Windows. It's the same guy. Both Hugh Syme album covers done, second half of '85 probably. I didn't know that till much later. That's their logo.
No idea.
They kind of had a logo by now. Photo of the band on the back. I mean, they look very much of the time, the hair. This is where I'd start a new fan.
That's where I was going to say too.
Because if a new fan hears this and doesn't like it, they're not going to get into it, because this is the core, this is the guts of Honeymoon Suite. If you're expecting something heavy, you're going to be disappointed. This is melodic rock. This is for the Journey fans. This is for the Foreigner fans, the REO Speedwagon fans. Like I said, a good comparison is Night Ranger to me, because they just kind of occupy that ground between just rock and hard rock. They're just right in between there, and every once in a while they lean. But this album, again, another triple platinum album here in Canada. It was produced by Bruce Fairbairn and engineered by Bob Rock. I mean, to me, the dream team of rock production in the 80s. I'm also, I'm also a guy who will swear up and down that Slippery When Wet was the album that changed my life as far as getting me into music. So you have to take it with a grain of salt there. And if you're not into that stuff, you're really probably not going to get into the big prize.
But it's big.
It's got that sound. It's got that sound. It's got the big drums. It's got the anthemic choruses. It's got the reverb. It's got, that mix of guitar and keyboards. It's also got, I think, just a killer list of songs. Not least of which is the first single from the album, Feel It Again.
Which is one of my all-time favorites.
Me too. It's
80s.
One of my songs by anybody. If that song doesn't put me in a good mood, it's a bad day.
It's one of those songs, Tim, I can listen to and I never get tired of it. Yeah. It is absolutely infectious. See, I've never seen it I never seen the Canadian single.
The only difference is that it says WEA instead of having the Warner Brothers logo. WEA just was like Warner Music of Canada, I guess. It was all the same distributor, really. What's funny about this, by the way, Feel It Again is that one song that hit the top 40. It reached number 34, which I remember being very excited hearing that on U.S. radio. It got to number 8 on the mainstream rock chart, but it got a lot of radio airplay, and I thought really things were starting to pick up when that came out. Like I said, didn't quite happen. But I don't know why. It's just it's one of those songs that's, within its fairly conventional commercial sounding rock. There's a lot going on from where it starts with that kind of low, ominous keyboard sound. And then by the time you get to the chorus, it's gone through a lot of changes. There's great guitar work in it. Like I said, it's the Fairbairn rock production sound. And it's been said, I've heard many, many different stories of how Bon Jovi came to work with Bruce Fairbairn and Bob Rock. I've heard it was because of this album. I've heard it was because of Black and Blues Without Love, also a Fairbairn rock production. And I've heard it's because of John Bon Jovi running into Mike Reno from Loverboy and saying, "Hey, how do I get in touch with this Bruce guy that produces your albums?" The truth is probably somewhere in the middle. Bob Rock himself, in an interview in 2007, says, "No, it's because of this." And we'll show this off, the CD version. It's got some scribbling on it. I did meet the guys.
Is that a Canadian press or U.S. press?
This is a Canadian Columbia House issue.
Oh, okay.
So I've got, it's hard to tell who's who. There's 3 signatures on the front cover. And the other 2. Oh, that's definitely Johnny D's signature there. And the other 2 here. And actually these, I've got 2 different drumsticks from Dave Betts that I've got at different, a couple different shows. And they're different brands. One's Vic Firth and one is Pat Alonso Drum Shop. So these are
nice.
some show used drumsticks from Dave Betts. The other song was sort of like would have been like the 1-2 punch of this album was mid 1986 was "What Does It Take," which was a power ballad. Which was also featured in a movie called One Crazy Summer, which I believe, well, judging from the back, starred John Cusack and Demi Moore. I don't know how big a movie it was. Should have been a big crossover hit single, right? Because that's usually the job of the ballad. Didn't quite work. It petered out at number 52, and it only hit number 38 on the mainstream rock chart.
And it didn't do anything here, I don't think, at all.
Now, I do know they did get a little bit of MTV play. I just don't know how much that translated into record sales. Another single off this album that I really love it's one of their more rocking tunes is the first track in the album, Bad Attitude. That's a great song.
And that got play down here.
Yeah.
In fact, you still hear it on FM rock radio. Every once in a blue moon, they'll play that.
It hit number 22 on mainstream rock, which tells me a lot of states were playing it. This is actually a U.S. cassette of The Big Prize.
There you go.
It's straight up on Warner Brothers, and it's got the it was right around this time that they started using these clear cassettes, which I always thought were so cool.
Yeah, a lot better quality, I'll give you that.
But there's album tracks on here that could have been singles in their own right. Wounded, great song. Words in the Wind, great song. That's my puppy. You can hear barking. Rubus.
Oh boy.
Lost and Found. Like they could have gone 5, 6 singles deep with this album.
I think if it would have got a bigger push in the States, I think something may have happened.
They opened for Journey. They opened for 38 Special. They opened for Ted Nugent. Like they had some big opening slots, and they opened for Heart. And these were bands, Heart especially, that they were on that self-titled album. Mm-hmm. Don't know why it didn't click. We mentioned Jethro Tull earlier, and the song "All Along You Knew" features a little flute playing from Mr. Ian Anderson, which is kind of an odd combination, but in the context of the song, I think it works really well.
You used to have the radio.
Okay. Yes, that's right. They won a Battle of the Bands. I think it was Q107 in Toronto. Yeah, and New Girl Now was the song, I believe. It was
had an early demo of New Girl Now.
Nice.
I wish I still had that. Oh my God, you got rid of it? Probably worth some money. Zeb's never heard of Honeymoon Suite.
Well, I can understand
well,
that.
you will now. That's why we're doing this.
Yeah. But like I said, it's melodic 80s rock. For someone that's not particularly into that type of music, if they're not into that, it might just sound really dated to them,
right?
But if you're a student of this type of music, you might find yourself wondering, where has this been? Why am I just discovering this now? But better late than never. So another thing that kind of happened with HMS that I think might have been, it's all about momentum sometimes and being in the right place at the right time. So yeah, they've got 2 solid albums that are selling respectably, and Warner Brothers obviously had some faith in this band because they said, okay, let's get the man himself, Ted Templeman, to work with this band. Mm-hmm. And that's what the first thing that Ted worked with them on, though, was in 1987 when they recorded. It's one of the few songs they didn't write. It was actually written by the late Michael Kamen. I probably shouldn't need to tell most people who Michael Kamen was. but it was the title song from a little movie called Lethal Weapon. And if you've never heard it, don't go listening to this song thinking you're going to get like a Danger Zone type of song, because
No,
it's not.
it's not.
It's definitely not. It's not an Eye of the Tiger. It's not like it's a ballad. And it came out in like spring of '87. So that was the first taste that it was also the first time that their original keyboard player Ray Coburn left and was replaced by Rob Pruce for this period. So that got a lot of airplay in Canada, and I'm sure, being on the soundtrack of this really big movie didn't hurt. But what happened while they were in, I believe, Los Angeles working on what would be their third album with Ted Templeman, Johnny D, the lead vocalist, was in I want to say he was in a motorcycle accident, or he was in an accident of some sort, and that laid him up for a series of months. So it wasn't until spring of 1988 before the third HMS album came out. And I've always wondered if that lull,
I think
if
that's
they weren't striking when the iron was hot, really made the difference. I don't know why it would have, because they still came up with a great album. But before we move on to that, maybe.
But think about that, Tim. A three-year hiatus between records in the '80s. That was unheard of,
Well, like I said,
how the whole climate, the whole music climate.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It had to be every 2 years.
It had to be.
It was really, really closer to 2 years, because Big Prize came out early '86. But yeah,
right.
It was a long.
But still, that's a long gap.
Long time for them to be out of the public eye.
Yeah.
But before we move on, we should probably rate the Big Prize.
Big Prize, I would give it, me personally, I think, this record. Racing After Midnight, I think, is usually considered their best record, though I think comparing the two and going through the catalog, I'm going to rate the Big Prize better. I would give the Big Prize an 8 out of 10. I think if you want the perfect example of Honeymoon Suite, if you're going to start off on any record, I think the Big Prize is where I would start, and I think that's my favorite record, and it's a lot of people's favorite record. But
Same here.
Racing After Midnight got good reviews. I will give you that. It's a solid record.
Big Prize, I'm going to give a 10. To me, that's a perfect record.
Well, there you go.
That's a perfect record. And that's where I'd start somebody. And like I said, if you listen to it, go, what else do they got? I'm like, if you don't like that, you're just not going to like this band, because that's the best of what they do.
If you like the Big Prize, you should like Racing After Midnight.
Yeah. It's got a different production sound. It doesn't, Ted Templeman produced it, but it doesn't sound like, and it certainly doesn't sound like a Van Halen production.
No.
It doesn't really. I guess, you know what, as far as the whole drum sound, I'm just thinking of what else he produced around that time. It's not all that different from VOA, which Ted Templeman also produced. That's also, if that was the first album where Don Landy wasn't the engineer anymore, because he stuck with the Van Halen camp.
Yeah.
He got a guy named Jeff Hendrickson to engineer. We get some fans commenting on here too.
Yeah,
thanks everybody
great.
for commenting, by the way.
Yeah, and thanks everybody for tuning in. This is awesome.
So
Look, D. Gunther, let's get some likes. There you go.
The third Honeymoon Suite album. They changed their logo, but I kind of like it. It's kind of like crest type of thing. And this is the album where Derry brings out his famous tire track guitar, which he has signature models of, made by, I think, Godin guitars. And this is a Canadian.
I do have a question. Is the Lethal Weapon track on that record?
Yeah, it's the last song in the album. If you get reissues,
wasn't that added later? I can't remember. There's something to do with that. Like they added it later in the United States or something, because I think there are versions of it without
I've got a US cassette here, and it's on here.
Okay. Maybe it's not on the... Well, no, you just said it's on the vinyl.
Yeah, it is on the vinyl. It's on the CD. Now, I will say this. The reissues, you get screwed, because like the Rock Candy reissue, they took it off.
That's what it was. That's what it was. It's a copyright or some kind of something.
When you have a song that a movie studio has because you'd think it's a no-brainer. It's like, well, that was a Warner Brothers film, a Warner Brothers soundtrack. This is a Warner Brothers property. It doesn't matter when it comes. Like, look at Cheap Trick and all of the soundtrack songs that they did, and it was years. So now, not that it's impossible to get. All you have to do is buy one of the compilations, and you'll get it. But it sucks that they said, hey, here's the new remastered version of Racing After Midnight, but instead of having more songs on it, it's got less. And to me, that's just kind of lame. It's like,
So
why
yeah,
did you bother?
yeah. So people, you could get the Rock Candy release, but you could also go to Discogs and find it
Get
used,
Discogs
or
and find the right
find
one.
the original track listing, because this
Yeah.
CD sounds really good.
Yeah.
So
it's really, really well produced.
right.
The big song off of this was Love Changes Everything, which was the last time that they had a song that had anything going in the States. It only peaked at 91 on the Hot 100, and it's such a good song. I don't understand it. I believe that might be their highest charting song in Canada. I think that hit like number 7. And it hit like 13 on the U.S. Mainstream rock chart. But I just don't think they had the push that they should have had.
Well, I remember during this time period, I remember this record coming out, but I don't remember any promotion or anything. Maybe they got a video on MTV, but I don't know. It might have been.
I remember seeing one ad, I think, in Circus, and I don't even know if it was a full page ad or if it was one of those, ones down at the bottom. Yeah, Ernesto's right. Yeah, Bad Attitude got played on Miami Vice. Again, they had all kinds of little, there was efforts were made to promote this band. So, I remember that third album, it came out in May. So Love Changes Everything did not catch on. And then the second single was Looking Out for Number 1. Great rockin' tune. It didn't do any better. And I remember that they did a concert. Much Music, again, Canada's MTV, used to have a Saturday night show called The Big Ticket, and they'd play a concert. Now, it might be something that was already in existence, like Van Halen's Live Without a Net, or it was one that they were putting on themselves. And they'd had Honeymoon Suite on a couple of times. And I remember they did the first one, they filmed it live in Halifax on the Big Prize Tour when the band had nowhere to go but up. And the band were just so energized and so into it. And then they filmed one in somewhere in Ontario. And I remember watching it and enjoying it, but thinking, they were supposed to have hit by now. This doesn't make any sense, and look, they, like I said, they did all right, and they're still around. They're still touring.
Right.
There's supposed to be a new album coming out. They've got, I don't know how many singles.
God, I hope.
It's been a while. So, but because they did do fairly well up here in Canada, this came out in late '89. The singles, which isn't the easiest vinyl to find. Just a 12-song album.
And that looks like a promo or something. Is that a promo?
This is a stamped promo copy. Yeah.
Wow.
I got this off Discog. So this is a good start for a compilation. This is an excellent start. It's also
you could start there.
You could start there, and you might also see this if you're like on Amazon, The Essentials, which is a series that Warner Brothers did. It's the exact same track listing, exact same. Now, what's better about this is that it's got some cool photos inside of it. So here we have, this is Derry Green with Ian Anderson, Jethro Tull.
Oh, yeah, nice. There he is.
Kingswood Music Theater, that's right. Thank you. I'm sure you all know who this guy is in the middle.
Hey, there's D.
D. Snyder. And one other, I'm sure you recognize these gentlemen here, Derry and Johnny. That would be Foreigner.
Oh, yeah, there you go. Yeah, there's Mick. There he is.
So, so there's the singles vinyl. And it had 2 new songs on it, both really good. Got some airplay up here, but again, without that US thing. At this point, they really didn't have any US push anymore, which sucks. But they did. Yes, you're absolutely right. Some may remember Derry Green was in a Pepsi commercial where he kept playing his guitar until the bottle caps popped off of all of these.
Oh my God, I remember that.
But that's, for some reason, they didn't have Derry actually playing. It's actually Vinnie Moore. I don't know how that all turned out, but I remember seeing that commercial. So yeah, that was.
There you go, Byron.
Absolutely.
Tim knows everything.
Well, when it comes to this band, I do know quite a bit. I will say that. So they stayed on Warner in Canada for one more album, and it didn't come out until 1991. So this didn't come out in the States. Monsters Under the Bed, which oddly enough, I believe was released on October 31st, which is kind of funny, but I think it's just a coincidence. This is a hard thing to find on vinyl. This is a German copy.
Holy mackerel.
12-song album. By now, they had a different rhythm section. This album was produced by Paul Northfield, who's a very famous engineer. He engineered a lot of Rush albums, Queensryche, and it's a really, really good album. And this is one of the strangest pieces of vinyl that I own, and I'll show you why. So side one, fairly conventional, right?
Yeah.
Check this out.
Oh, that's a problem.
But I knew this one. I didn't pay a lot for this because of this. I knew this. There were pictures, and I'm like, I just want this on vinyl. And I think for some reason, I just think this is hilarious.
I guess they didn't have the things lined
up.
up.
They didn't have the plunger lined up. Yeah. So the first song on here, Say You Don't Know Me, great tune. They've opened a lot of concerts with this. Little Sister's another rocker on here. Yeah, this, I think it did okay in Canada. I don't know if it went gold or not, but without having U.S. release, it's going to be, you're fighting an uphill climb. And from then on, it was just, the independent albums. But this album is worth seeking out, and I think a lot of people that
that's the one I don't have that one.
Yeah, you gotta.
Like you said, it's a tough find. And you know what, Tim? That was never released down here in the States.
That's right.
By that time, that was it.
Yeah.
They were.
So, and yeah, back then before the internet, if you didn't know somebody that lived up here, you'd think Honeymoon Suite stopped recording after Racing After Midnight.
Yeah, there was virtually no information really, and I never ever saw any imports of that. I mean, I learned about that record much later.
Yeah,
and it's just
not surprised.
It is what it is, but
So the first time that I saw this band in concert was actually in 1995, playing a very, very small club in Halifax, and they were great. Like, they were great. And the cool thing about it is that the CD here came out, I don't know where all it came out, but it's on Interplanet Music. It's called 13 Live.
I've never seen that.
It's pretty much the set that I remember seeing. So it's kind of cool. It's kind of commemorating, and it's all like there's nothing new on it, but it's got a good mix of all of the 4 albums.
What label is that on?
It's on Interplanet.
Interplanet.
Yeah. I can send you a link to this afterward.
All right. I would say that
Live, you'll see it on
the album cover artwork's questionable. I'll give it that.
Very, very, very low budget. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, very low budget. The next thing I've got is kind of an odd situation where you had a band. Okay, I don't know which one came first. I'm going to show this one off first. Yeah. I remember reading Classic Rock magazine, the UK magazine, which is great because they covered all kinds of the rock spectrum. I saw an ad for this album called Dreamland, which is a little bit better on the cover art. This is on Frontiers Records. And this is a 12-song album. Now, it's got on here the 2 new songs that were on the singles, which were Still Loving You and oh no, it's just got one of them. It doesn't have Long Way, which is a fantastic song. But mostly, what it is a UK version of this, which is called Lemon Tongue. And by this time, the band basically consists of Johnny D and Derry Green and backup musicians. Like, it's none of the original guys. This is an 11-song album. They basically put it out themselves. This version I have it's from Illinois. It's on Wildfire Music. It was released on Bullseye Music in Canada. So really, you can tell it's kind of a low-budget do-it-yourself thing. There are.
I do think that came out on Frontiers too, maybe.
Well, the Frontiers
in different countries or in Italy or something. It probably did.
The Frontiers version is this Dreamland because it has a lot of the same songs.
Okay.
It's got 1, 2.
So that is on Frontiers. Okay.
3, 4. I should have 5, 6, 7. 7 of the same tracks. It gets kind of confusing. And the best way I can describe it, this is kind of like, it's very dry, it's very bare bones, it doesn't have the big production anymore. the closest comparison I can come up with this is like Def Leppard's Slang. So there are a couple songs on here that they did live years later that were okay. There was What I Know and Gone, both of which are pretty good. I don't listen to this much. This one I think has some better songs on it because it's got a few tracks that date back to the mid 90s, and they sound a little bit more traditional Honeymoon Suite, which is probably why this exists. And at that point, so they're kind of up for air again. And Frontiers, great champion of melodic rock, old and new. This comes out HMS Live. It comes out on CD, and their only officially released DVD. I don't know. I'm guessing this is hard to get now.
I've never seen it.
This was recorded at the Gods Festival in Bradford, UK, in June of 2002. And there was Warner was supposed to put out a DVD of all of their videos on Warner Brothers, and it never came out. So I know Ernesto had mentioned something about a box set. I've got the next best thing. Trouble is, it's extremely rare. And if you can find it, get it.
Okay, go ahead.
This is called Feel It Again, the Anthology. This came out...
I've never seen that either.
This came out in the UK on a company called GOT Discs, G-O-T-T. This is a slipcase. And this is a 2-disc anthology of Honeymoon Suite. And it is really, really good.
I'll be darned. All right.
I've seen it go for hundreds of dollars because it only came out the once. It's just a 2 CD set. It's got the flip thing here. They spent some money on the discs themselves. So aside from the album tracks from the first 3 albums that you'd expect, this has a song on it called
yeah, it's expensive. There are 2 up here on Discogs. One's 100. It's in Germany, and then there's another one for 125. In the US, it's here in the States.
Yeah, it's crazy. I was lucky enough. I think I found one for 50. So among the bonus things on here, there's a song called Those Were the Days, which was on a soundtrack to a Charlie Sheen movie called The Wraith, which came out in 1986. I don't know how big a movie it was. I don't think it was.
I don't recall.
Sounds like it could have been an outtake from The Big Prize. It's got something that gets played up here on the radio every year is their cover of Greg Lake's I Believe in Father Christmas, which is a perfectly faithful rendition. It's really, really good. It was on a WEA package of WEA artists, Canadian artists. And that's really hard to find now. April Wine, Helix, Honeymoon Suite, and Coney Hatch.
Oh, I'd be down for that.
Yeah.
Someone make it happen.
Yeah, they can all open for Triumph on the reunion tour.
Wouldn't that be great, though?
That would be awesome.
That would be awesome. There's an idea.
There's a lot of unreleased demos on the end of this. Like I said, it's from that Lemon Tongue period, so it's not the greatest. Disc 1 is better than Disc 2, but there's still a lot of good stuff on here. And it's really good. Among other things, it's a really good write-up on the band. It's pretty in depth for something that was just kind of put out and just the tracks were licensed. So keep an eye out for that. If you happen to find one a little cheaper,
that would be a great comp that Rock Candy could put out. You would think that maybe
if they could license this, then it would be made available again, and it'd be much, much, much better. So the next thing. So I saw the band, I've seen them 3 times. I saw them again in early 2008, and they were really good, but that's when I met the guys, and they said they were working on a new album. So I was watching for that, and melodicrock.com first announced it, and eventually it came out, and it's called Clifton Hill. Now, if this photo looks familiar, this is also signed, but if this photo looks familiar, it's because... hang on. I should have kept it out. There it is. It's very similar to the inner sleeve of the first album.
Yeah, it is.
So, and this album is really, really, really good.
Really good. Well, Tim, you recommended that to me.
This is a
You said you
return
have
form.
to get it.
Yeah, this.
I found it. I had to buy it from Russia to get it.
Wow.
Well, it was a decent price, but it was on Frontiers and it wasn't a boot.
Yeah.
But oh my God, what a great record. This
Yeah.
might be my favorite Honeymoon Suite album,
It's
believe it or
really
not.
good. Yeah, I listened to this a lot. The second track on here, Tired of Waiting on You, got some pretty serious airplay, by way of comparison. But That's All You Got, Down to Business, She Ain't All Right. Oh, it's good. I'd love to see a vinyl issue with this.
And it's also the producer of the first album, and the band's all back together.
The band is mostly back together at this point. Yeah. So it's Johnny D, Gary Green, Ray Coburn was back. He's since left. But still Gary Lalonde on bass and Dave Betts on.
Uh-oh.
Sorry about that.
No, that's all right.
And so Ray left and was replaced by Peter Nunn, who had played with him in the early 2000s.
Okay.
I guess I forgot. We've gotten off our rating system, haven't we?
Well, yeah, I would. Well, I know what I would give this.
Well, Racing After Midnight, I'd give a 9.5 out of 10.
Because what I would give it.
I don't like it quite as much as The Big Prize, but I really like it.
I guess I'd give it a. I don't know. I guess I could give it an 8.
Monsters
7.5, maybe.
Monsters Under the Bed, I would give a really solid 8.
Yeah, I can't rate it because I haven't heard that one.
Lemon Tongue / Dreamland, between the two of them, I'd give like between a 6, 6.5.
Yeah, I'd say that's fair.
This is a 9.
It's definitely a 9.
This is awesome.
If anybody has heard April Wine, Back to the Mansion, which is also absolutely wonderful. It's kind of the same thing. It's
kind
just
of the same sound, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, but Tim, the thing that gets me is that this doesn't sound that. This sounds like this was recorded in 1985 to some degree. This has the Honeymoon Suite sound.
Yeah.
I mean, it could have been the next record after The Big Prize or Racing After Midnight. It would have fit in there.
Gold. They wanted to get back to that earlier sound. Like
it's perfect. It's so freaking good.
And it's so rare when a band says they want to do that and they actually achieve it. Mm-hmm. And they did. So sadly, the only thing that's come out, there's only one thing that's come out since that I know of. And it came out in late 2016. They did a Kickstarter for it. Now, it's a regret of mine that I didn't pledge. Maybe it was Pledge Music before they went under. But it's a regret of mine that I didn't pledge for the vinyl version of this. It was a little bit of sticker shock. I think it was like $200. But talk about a collector's item if I'd have done it. I did pledge for the CD. So this is Hands Up. This has got 7 new songs. Okay. So it's a long EP, and then it's got 2 earlier songs done live. Most of the songs in here are co-written by Sean Kelly. A lot of you know who Sean Kelly is. He's co-written with Helix and Lee Aaron. Like he's just this go-to dependable Canadian guitar player. Stay in the Light dance mix. Sounds like I don't want to know about it, Ernesto.
Yeah, Ernesto, what are you talking about?
No, you know what? I wouldn't doubt it. But another thing that's interesting, because there are so few of them, and if I'm not mistaken, because I'm looking through this track listing. We're back to this now, this compilation.
Okay. And
I'm like, it's missing something. On the first album's run, Warner put out this 3-song EP, and it had 3 live tracks on it. One of them was a song that didn't make the first album. It didn't make any of the albums. It's called We Got the Night, which is not a bad song. Now, I was looking at this thinking, I know I've got that song. I think it's on disc 1 of this compilation, but it's not listed. I think.
Yeah, you might be right.
I got it somewhere. Anyway, but yeah, Hands Up. It's really good. I wouldn't say it's good as the sum total of Clifton Hill, but it's a similar sound, so it's worth picking up. I don't know how much it is now. Like I said, I got it when it first came out, and like I also said, they're supposed to be working on some new music. So, more power to them, because we need more Honeymoon Suite.
Oh my
There
God!
needs to be more of this music out there.
If it's anything like Clifton Hill,
Yeah.
count me in, because I would. If someone said, "Oh yeah, throw me at a Honeymoon Suite album," I've never heard them. I could recommend this record. It is solid top to bottom, and the fact that this is a legacy band, Tim, that
But yes,
can
putting
be
out an album this strong this far into their career. Yeah.
just like the April Wine album. I know because we have the April Wine series, kids. We haven't hit Back to the Mansion yet, but we will.
Yeah.
But it's another one of those records. If throw me an April Wine album, okay, Back to the Mansion,
Yeah.
and you would, hands down, there's no issues at all.
You would be like, this doesn't sound like a bunch of 50-year-old guys.
No, it's amazing.
Yeah.
It is. I know I'm all giddy. This record really is great. If you can find it, kids, I don't know where you're going to find it. I found mine in Discogs. I got it from Russia. But if you can find one or tap into it and listen to it, oh my God, it's well worth a listen.
Now, I do know this, the version that I've got, which is from Canada, it's on, I don't know if it's Koch, Koch.
Koch, yeah.
Koch. It's got 12 tracks on it. And I know some of the versions don't have. Some only have 11. I think they're missing the last song, Sitting in the Garden.
Let me look.
If you can find the 12-track version, that's definitely the one to get. But if you can find it at all, then that's the one to get.
Oh. The Russian version's 11 tracks.
Okay, so you're missing Sitting in the Garden, I think.
Oh, man, I am.
Now, you're not.
Well, that's all right. I'll take what I've got, because
you're
it's
not
so hard to
one of
find
the best
anyway.
tracks in the album, and someone who listens to that album is still going to get the picture,
Okay.
So, yeah, wow. It's just a shame, they do get out there and they play some of these 80s cruises and stuff, and yeah, open for Skid Row. That's awesome.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Shout out from Duck McKagan. I wouldn't have expected that. Yeah. Wow.
I'll be damned.
So yeah, they made inroads, and they made obviously contacts out there on the road. They know a lot of these bands, so they just got to keep plugging away, I think, and maybe, I don't know, who knows.
Well, I'm looking forward to that next record.
Yeah, me too.
And I really want to thank you for turning me on to this, because when you said, "Oh no, it's a must-have," you were totally right. Absolutely brilliant stuff. What can you say? They still stand up.
Yeah, it's good stuff. And like I said, if you love 80s melodic rock, bordering on hard rock, I don't think you can go wrong with this band. Johnny D's got one of those like dependable, good rock radio
Very
rock
distinctive
voices.
voice.
Yeah, very distinctive, but it's not a voice that demands your attention. You know what I mean? Like, it's not an ultra high voice. It fits with the songs. Derry's an awesome guitar player. Their records typically are very, very well produced, and especially those first three that you're just hearing these songs, like why aren't most of these songs monster hits?
I know.
Like, really, really good songs. But
they were as good as anybody else in that era. I just don't get it. Some people just get,
I don't think they had U.S. management, and that might have had something to do with it, because
maybe
if you're a Canadian band, you've got to have if you can't be in the States all the time, you've got to have management in the record company's face all the time saying promote. The music should stand by itself, but there were so many bands putting out albums, and everybody wants that, those few slots to get radio play. But most of the stuff, it just seems like a no-brainer. You play it, the people will call in. Who was that? I want to hear that again. So, I don't know.
Another trivia. What? Another trivia.
Yes, that's right. That's right.
Came on American Idol. I didn't know that.
Yeah. What is her name? Leah Marlene. She actually sings a song on Hands Up, co-sings with Johnny on a song called Market Square. So, yeah. Oh, song on here called 1986. You got to check it out. It's
okay.
So good.
I'll see if I can find that.
Yeah.
It's the thrill of the hunt, Tim. The fact that I was able to get a Clifton Hill, I was like, holy shit, all right.
Yeah, that's I see. The thing is, they're one of those bands like Coney Hatch. Well, not quite like Coney Hatch because they had more than that. But I just wish there were more albums to talk about, more albums to listen to by them. But
well, those Coney Hatch
still,
albums are good too. So,
yeah,
holy mackerel!
yeah.
And that's another band that has not gotten any recognition in the States at all.
No,
worse than Honeymoon Suite.
Well, like I said, Honeymoon Suite did have one top 40 hit. So they got
big.
Can't take that away from them. But man, what a song!
Right.
Feel It Again, peak at number 34. No, that should have been top 10.
Should have been
5.
top 10.
Yeah.
Yep, 100% right. All right, so I this is what I'm taking away. If anybody else wants to start getting into this band, look for the big prize. I would recommend Racing After Midnight, and if you can get Clifton Hill, by all means get it. If you never know what you'll find in the cheapy bins, or you never know.
Yeah.
Keep your eyes open for those, but I would recommend that. And of course, Tim would recommend that Anthology comp, but that's
if you can find it. But
if you ever can find it.
If you can find either, like I said, it's either called. So if you're on Amazon or Discogs, either get this, the singles, or this, the essentials. It's the same 12 songs. It's their best of back from '89.
There you go.
And you might even find, oh, hey, I know that song. Oh, I remember that song. So it might be one of those situations too. And by the way, even though this came out in 2005, it still has Lethal Weapon on it. So figure that out.
I don't get it. Maybe it has something to do with being in the UK.
Could be
licensing. I don't know.
It sounds to me like somebody didn't get the clearance and probably got their hands slapped. You're like, we have to put this thing out with 9 songs on it.
Maybe. I don't know. It's weird. But look for Racing After Midnight if you can find the old original Warner Brothers CD, because it sounds fine.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know how the Rock Candy CDs sound, because a lot of their stuff, I love the packaging of the Rock Candy stuff. Yeah. And it all depends upon who's doing the mastering. But some of that stuff, there's a lot of loudness wars on some of it. But some of it sounds absolutely stunning, though, too.
And it all depends, too, on how well the masters, what kind of shape that they were in. Mm-hmm. They may have had to make do with a lesser version of it.
Yeah, that's true. All right, cool. Well, we did it in an hour, Tim Durling, which is amazing. And you are like an encyclopedia of Honeymoon Suite.
Do what I can.
I'll give you some props there. Yeah. I raised the peace goblet to you. And the drumsticks. All right, cool. Well, let's wrap this dog up. I want to thank everybody for coming on the chat. A lot of good interaction, a lot of fun. And there you go. If you want to get in Honeymoon Suite, there you go. I don't think it's a great band. They need more love. I'll leave it at that.
Yeah.
And so hopefully we're able to give the band more love.
I hope we can do what we've done like for April Wine, as far as like all of us that participate in these panels. Oh, now I've got this album. That's great.
Yeah, you look at John Clauser. He's going nuts.
I know.
Yeah. Oh, the April Wine series has been awesome.
Yeah.
All right, Tim, I'm going to wish you good night. You have a good evening, and we'll see you on the next one.
All right.
All right. Night, everybody.